All right, welcome to a special spring break episode of the Educators podcast. Of course, I am Aaron, aka Mr. Burden, but I'm going by Aaron today because it's spring break. But I have a very special guest with me, one of my favorite people, one of my favorite coworkers or former coworkers after I retired. But is none other than Garrett OHara, and he is a special educator in the Virginia Beach City Public Schools and one of the coolest people to hang out with. Loves kids, great at his job, and I'm glad to chat with him today. What's going on, Garrett?
Doing good, man. Appreciate it. It's like one intro, man. I can't ask for a better one on that. That's
Absolutely.
great.
It's spring
Thank
break,
you,
so
man.
cheers. I got my
Thank you, man.
we got our drinks here. We're hydrating, getting our electrolytes. But I appreciate you hopping on to chat with me, especially during spring break. And I know how important it is to recharge those mental mojo batteries.
Oh yeah, man.
Do you have enough days to recharge?
We'll find that out after this week goes. That's going to be the trick right there.
Yeah.
I didn't make any vacations to go off anywhere, as I told everybody. My definition of a spring break is being able to sleep in and just not worry about having to be anywhere. Just keep it nice and easy.
There's a lot to having a staycation,
Mm-hmm. No worries about anything for a week, not having to be anywhere. It's nice to be able to relax, of course.
Absolutely. It's something that a lot of folks take for granted, that you got to have that time to recharge.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
One of the things that all of us teachers struggle with is that work-life balance when there's so much on the work side. You need time to just have that quiet.
Exactly. I mean, I'd say that's when I do that, I'm a firm believer that, I understand you got to work hard. We got to be prepared and ready. But there is a certain time at night when it gets to where I'm like, when I go home, I know I may have to work it, but I call it quits.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to. Unless it's something like dire emergency that has to be done. I say, everybody, it's okay because, go ahead, take that break. I go by the old saying, if you're to pass away, your job will replace you soon. Don't burn yourself out. It's just, you do got to find that balance because, and at the end of the day, I tell them I get it's important, but I always tell my people when it's late at night, I go, you're not getting paid to work at that night. So I get that if you're doing it at that time, at some point you got to realize that's something you're doing on your own.
Yeah.
You can't blame the job. And that's something I remember when I first started, I had to learn that difference. Because I was trying to get all this stuff done. My father was a teacher, he was like, I get you're busy, but at some point you got to know when to call it quits.
Yeah.
Because you're going to hit a burnout. So that's what I've learned. I set up rules for myself. Like, this year been a little different because, been a little rougher year. So I'm tired of going. So I'll go home, lay down for a little bit. I probably won't touch my laptop for a few hours after give me a break. But normally, for the most part, on the weekends, or if it's at night, okay, if I do any extra, at most I'll work for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, just so I don't burn myself out. Because really that time too, after a long work day, it's really all you mentally have a lot of times.
Yeah, it takes so much out of you. I mean, and that's, I think, a lot of things that people forget is that in addition to the physical hours that you're putting in, because we have planning time, but our planning time gets eaten up by IEP meetings or planning meetings. All these things get scheduled during that time, and we barely even have time to have a lunch. So we end up doing a lot of work outside of school. And I wish there was a way that, and it does seem like a lot more is being put on the teachers' plates. Would you agree?
Oh,
That seems to be the go-to solution. Oh, we don't know what to do with this. Let's have the teachers do it.
Yeah, I do. And I've actually had a few talks with other people that said, my father's an educator. I come from a family of educators, and there's some in there. Not only that, they just, plus, growing up there, it seems like you meet, once you become a teacher, it seems like everybody you meet as a teacher.
Yeah.
But I have talks with them, I go, and everybody always asks, it's just, the craziest part, and a lot of people I talk to them, they say, what burns them out isn't the kids, isn't what burns them out is the paperwork.
Yeah.
Because, the kids, at least, that comes to an end at some point. But it seems like the paperwork, it's always like a packet. Always, it's like, I've never understood it. Like and there's so much paperwork for such small, simple things to
Yeah,
explain.
and it seems like a lot of it is redundant,
Mm-hmm.
or lot of it's not necessary, or it seems like it's paperwork just for the sake of doing it. There are a
Yeah.
lot of times where we always have this meeting should have been an email, but there's also times where, like, I feel like there's ways we could really streamline and simplify a lot of that stuff,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
it makes it, and it takes away from your time, your energy, but also, like, I think it subconsciously, and you can't help it because we're human. Do you think that it kind of puts almost a built-in resentment to try to do stuff like you
Definitely.
identify, like, I think a lot of teachers, I might identify a kid that might have some needs, but they know that that's going to require so much paperwork,
Yeah.
so much stuff, and on top of what they're already doing. And then what frustrated me was when you have all that paperwork and you tire yourself out and you burn yourself out with all this paperwork, you go to the meeting and they go, well, we'll just wait another 6 months.
Oh yeah. That's
You know?
that's how it is. Like I've dealt with this situation this school year. I'm sure you remember a little bit.
Yeah.
We had to do some behavior data collection on particular students I had, and I can tell you it's been rough. And
Yeah.
like what people don't realize too is like I get okay, everybody's you're doing the data collection. We're gonna get them in the right spot. Cool. But the problem is though, that process takes so long and is so draining. By the time the kids get there, you're done.
Yeah.
Just the process alone burns you out. And then you're like, well, now we need to figure something out. And then you're sitting there like, I've already done 30 different things, figured out 30.
Yeah.
Now you want me to? It's like when do you call it quits? Like
Mm-hmm.
when do we finally be like, all right, enough is enough. We got to stop always coming up with a reason to do all this stuff.
Do you feel like, as an educator, your opinion is respected? And
50,
that's kind of go ahead.
50-50. I'll
50
say 50
50.
50. Yeah,
Okay.
like that's sometimes because like it's just you sit there, you listen to people talk, but then if you're being said something, if it's to a point in this extreme, I think they'll
Yeah.
take into consideration because they're like, especially nowadays, like, man, we gotta be careful because if we do this, this could go really sour. We could lose a teacher, be in an even worse situation.
Yeah.
But I've seen times where I'm like, man, let's just say I don't think A, B, and C will work,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll still give me A, B, C, and then they'll get
Yeah.
mad that they don't get D doesn't follow up, and it's like, I
Yeah.
told you guys, like it's just. Because sometimes, too, like you said, you have these people who they're not in the room with the kids every day. They show up once every blue moon. And I get, they're here to help. I get they're trying to. But sometimes they're so adamant to put their opinion there with to force them to be their way. Y'all don't realize the damages you're causing from the
Yeah.
outside. Like, I get you think you're helping. But that's where it's just.
I call them seagull specialists.
Yeah.
Because they when they do show up, they fly in, make a lot of noise, poop on everything, and then fly away. It's like you don't. There, and this is a common thing. I've spoken with a lot of educators, and prior to the podcast, personally, that it feels like the people that are in the least contact with the actual quote unquote front line, the people that are furthest removed from the classroom, are the ones making these decisions. And it's in less and less are the educators with a lot of us have bachelor's degrees, if not master's degrees in education. And it's like almost like our opinion, even though we're the ones day to day, and we've spent all this energy just figuring out how all of these kids work.
Yeah.
It's like that's not doesn't seem like it's taken as consideration as much as some expert that shows up once every a blue moon, like you said.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it seems to be frustrating.
Like that's where like you get to this stuff and you'll hear all these studies. Like you talk about keeping everything simple. The basic concept of simplicity is what I'm a firm believer that the old KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Like that's what I go by. Like I do the same thing with me. Like I'll look at something. If I start sounding complex, I'm like, yo, keep it simple, stupid. Like don't stop making things more complicated. We're already too busy. You don't need to make everything complicated. But like, and that's what kills me. You saw all these people and they have all these different strategies. And there's always, well, this study, this study, this study, this study. And the guys got to look at me. I'm sick and tired of those studies because guess what? Those studies have nothing to do with my classroom.
What about the Garrett OHara study, the one
Exactly,
has the actual kid that you're talking about?
Yeah, and especially because I tell everybody, a lot of these studies that you see too, I don't like them just because at least a lot of these things I get, you're doing it for good, but the demographic and the group that they're studying is a group that got them that will give them the answer they wanted, not the answer they need, and that's the problem with it. It was great you got the study that got it, but you have a very select, limited group that you're observing, but it's a group that you're going to get the answer you want, not the answer that is needed.
And those studies, exactly, those studies are designed to get a desired outcome. It's like the outcome. It's opposite of what we teach the kids for a science. It's like the opposite of scientific investigation. It's where we teach the kids, okay, you have your hypothesis, but at the end, if your data shows your hypothesis to be wrong, then your conclusion is that your hypothesis is wrong, even though you're not wrong because you're the scientist. But with them, it's like, okay, we're only going to look at the data that supports our hypothesis.
Yeah, and I'm like, I look at them all. That's right, because I'll hear studies, and it's so many different things. I tell them, like, I'll hear of just something similar, like, well, certain kids do this, some kids like this. I go, well, how'd you find out? Well, we went to this private school up in fancy uptown New York. I'm like, no, hold on. Okay, it's great you went there.
Yeah.
But did you go to a school out in Texas or California, down in Florida? And you went to this rich private school. Did you go to a lower socioeconomic school to see if that works?
Yeah.
Like, you got to understand, there's so many different things that come into factor and play. And it's just a lot. I'm like, you can't just sit there and say, oh, these kids did it. Any kid did it. Which, don't get me wrong, I am a believer, if I'm a firm believer that, because, where you live really shouldn't determine. If you're a good student, you're a good student. So I get it. But it does help certain things like that. Like we all know, like certain kids, some kids may not have a home to go home to and, do the work. Like there are kids who are going through that scenario. Hence why, nowadays, that's why I remember when a few years ago, a teacher explained to me, that's what they said, homework is not considered important anymore. They didn't think it was fair for kids that didn't have like home to go home right where the power being turned on. Kids from lower, it's not fair to them that they can't do because they don't have that, which, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, if you're going to make rules like that, make sure your studies are also covered on all those bases too.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure it's whatever you're assigning to kids is worth it, but also like what you're going to use that for needs to be tangible. Do you feel like it's a bit hypocritical to push for individualized education, but then we're almost push the same magic bullet for every situation? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the time. Like, so if you have an IEP, then you have kids who have certain needs. Yes, and you need more individualized attention. I will say, but here's something: everybody's pushing for that so much. And my problem is, you do realize we don't have the staff nowadays. Teachers are at an all-time low. Like, why are we increasing workloads when when it's dropping? Our coworker, our work labor force has dropped due to everything. So why would you increase? Like, it's just there's not enough time in the day. At some point, we got to look at that. And my mindset is, well, when you have less workforce, you don't add on more work. You lighten the load to help them out. There's certain things. There's certain points you got to look at. Something like, all right, we gotta do something to help these teachers out. And that's the problem. They've moved so much forward, had all these stuff. Okay, well, we like doing this stuff. It makes us look good. Can you guys keep doing it? Okay, got it. It's like I was like one of the most. I hear teachers, and this is something I hear is the most common thing that teachers, when I talk, like those "I can" statements. Like, God, I hear that all the time, and it's just like I get the purpose, but did you write them on the board? Did you draw that? I'm like,
well, what is the purpose?
Why do I got to dedicate time out my day instead of making it work? Because I just got to write something like you got access to my lesson plans, which has that on there.
Yes.
Why does it also have to be on the board?
Well, we all know what the I can statements are for. They're not for the kids.
Yeah, they're not.
That's for the when they walk through, they for the observers to know what you're doing. And my thought is if you can't figure out what I'm doing, and I'm glitching, I'm turning into Max Headroom here. But hey, I'm gonna mess with this here. But while I'm playing with my camera here,
Yeah,
if you can't figure out what I'm doing, if you can't figure out what I'm doing as an educator, but just by walking in to my room, then I don't know if I value your opinion. You know,
exactly. It's
I
kind
don't
of
know if
like
I value what you're thinking. What do you think is contributing the most to this educator shortage, or this struggle to get educators to come in?
I'd say big and first and foremost, they just don't pay teachers well enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's at the end of the day, like, I get. I'm not saying as a teacher, we don't have horrible salary. Like, it's not. I'm not living under the line of poverty or anything. But I can say for the amount of work that they want us to do,
Yeah.
and like for everything stuff, certain things that they want us to be a part of, like the school system just does not pay, and that's not just teachers. I'm talking TAs,
Yeah.
office people. Like, it's unreal. They act like their pay scale is still like that in the 1980s. Like
Mm-hmm.
20 grand a year will work. No, it doesn't. Like, before I was a teacher, I was a registrar in the main office at another school for 6 years. I worked there for 6 years. Well, the 12-month was considered the student. What was it? They said SIS, or the student information manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm manager. I'm working 12 months out of the year. During the summer, I'm working 10-hour days, and that whole 6 years, my salary never went over 30,000 a year.
Wow.
Like, I was still under, like, I remember being on part of a conference, and I tell you this, I was part of a committee. They asked us to come help out with improving office stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we want to improve it. I'm like, okay. They gave us this list of questionnaires, and I saw it, and I was so fresh. Like, I had only been doing it for like a year this time, so I was so fresh, like the new age stuff. Coming into it, what the struggles I had.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, they had this all these questions. Of course, everybody else came with like a little paragraph, like, "Oh, we can do this," but man, I'll tell you, I remember they gave me a week, and I broke every bit of that thing down. I
Good.
came with lists, like, broke something. Here's something I did too to throw them for a loop, and I even said this was a position we were dealing with real estate for, make sure you live in your correct area. We had to deal with custody custody battles, custody
Mm-hmm.
situations. So I had to know all this legal stuff. Then
Yeah.
I also had to be in this school protocol. So that's 3 different departments: real estate, the custody battles. Those are people. They have real people outside of school that do their. They make 40. They make at least 50 to 60 a year doing this.
Yeah.
But then you have me doing the same thing, but you want to pay me, starting me off at 24 a year.
Yeah.
There's a problem with that. And the thing is like, and I remember when I got that job, there was no training, and that's probably what I told him, and I broke that down. And to even prove my point, how this is a tough job. I had to take work home, but I don't make a lot. I'm struggling.
Mm-hmm.
I actually applied for government housing and food stamps, and I qualified.
Wow.
At the time, I was a 24, 25-year-old single young male with no kids, and I qualified for government housing and food stamps.
If
Like,
you're
that's not good.
qualified for government assistance and you're working a government job, they're not paying you enough.
Yeah.
That's
That's what
a
I'm talking
red
about.
flag.
Yeah, I go, y'all, like, at a certain point, I go, and especially, I go, it'd be one thing if this was a temporary position where I'd work maybe 4 or 5 hours a day. Okay, I got
Yeah.
you. But I'm working almost 40 hours a week. That's not including the work I got to take home to keep up, make sure the school goes round.
Yeah.
Like, why am I being paid so? And that's where, and I talked to a lot of people, like a lot of these teachers I have, like, we had a staff member this year leave, and I was talking to her, and she goes, Garrett, I have to. She goes, I have no choice. She goes, I had to move, and I realized, she goes, I have a master's degree. And I had to move back home with my parents because teaching isn't paying me well enough to even put a roof over my head for me. I was like,
Yep.
dang, that's why, and I had to start looking, especially, now I have a child on the way,
Yeah.
and now
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you, man, thank you. Yeah, but like, I'm really looking at bills, stuff like this, and I'm like, as a teacher, I can't afford any of these nice houses.
Mm-mm.
I can't, like, I miss that. The market's gone as well. Like, as a teacher, it's like, really the only thing I see like I can afford is if I go buy me a trailer, which nothing wrong with that. I'm not opposed to it, but it's like
Yeah.
my options are very limited
You're on
due
the,
to the
yeah, I was
fact
gonna say
we
your
don't.
options are limited.
Yeah, due to the fact that's where my salary stands.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm coaching. I'm the baseball coach. At the middle school.
Yeah.
Anyway, I do that. That's fun. I love doing that. That's a blast.
Yeah.
But people always like, oh man, I'm trying out getting coaching basketball too. Everyone's like, you're really gonna pick up coaching that much out there and trying to line up? I'm like, I need money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, it's great. You're right. I want that time. I go, unfortunately, I got to make money. Bills got to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, like, a happy man, I say a happy man is a bills paid man.
Well, this would be a great time to mention one of our sponsors at this time, Rudder Jackson Financial Services. And so, Garrett, I mean, how you're talking about worrying about your finances, but wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if you had a specialized personal financial coach
Oh
that
yeah,
would
that would be
help
big.
take a look at your measly paycheck that's so tiny that it's embarrassing that the government thinks that we're worth this
Yeah,
little,
no.
but to be able to stretch that out is more than you already are stretching it out, because God knows you're stretching it out as much as possible.
Oh yeah.
But wouldn't it be great for educators to have a specialized, not only a specialized financial coach, but a former teacher, former educator who's been in our shoes, who knows how hard it is to take a teacher's salary with all the very little free time you have. Well,
oh yeah.
Vanessa Rudder Jackson is the CEO of Rudder Jackson Financial Services. She has a great solution for all of us. And if you email her, and I'll put this right here at varudder34 at gmail.com, my listeners at the Educators Podcast, if you send her the code TEACH, then you get a free 40-minute consultation directly with the CEO and CFO, Vanessa Rudder Jackson herself. Specialized in financial services. You will be surprised what the power of your money can do, even us teachers. So if you act now, again, my listeners gets a free 40-minute consultation. Rudder Jackson Financial Services. Let's see how far your money can go.
Every penny counts.
Every penny counts. Love it. So, Garrett, what made you decide to become an educator? What shifted for you?
Yeah, so growing up for me, actually, it's funny that I became a teacher because I was thinking about dropping out of high school.
Wow.
My junior year, yeah. Like I was like I was kid. It's funny to me. I was a kid. I didn't know my purpose. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Like really growing up, all I wanted to do was play baseball. Like that was my thing. I love baseball.
Yeah.
Baseball. I'm a baseball fanatic. I wanted to play baseball. I wanted to do well. In high school, like I said, I started getting to the age I realized, like, well, obviously a playing career is very, very not going to happen. I'm just kind of hard when I'm not the biggest guy in the world. I'm not the fastest guy. Like I'm not a bad player, but I ain't nothing to brag about. And I had a chemist. And so I was trying to figure out somewhere I wanted to stay around the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured, I was talking to one of my coaches back then. He goes, dude, you'd be an amazing coach. He's like, you know the game, especially how you pay attention to small stuff. He was, why not do it? He was a lot of the advice we've used at our team. Or tips I took from you from other stuff. So why not get into it? So I got into coaching. It was helping out, and not that I ended up not dropping out because I had a cousin taught me how to not dropping out of high school. He's like, be a kid for as long as you can. I promise you it'll change, and it did. And so I started to get it, So then I was like, all right, well, let me go to college with it. Let me be a kid as long as I can. I got the rest of my life to work.
Yeah.
So I started doing that. And then when I was getting into school, and I realized I really wanted to get into coaching. So then it was like, well, now I become a teacher. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can get paid to coach. That's cool. I get to have the schedule built around that. And at first I was going to be a history teacher, just a general ed history teacher, because that's what my dad did. And I have all the resources. Plus, it's something that history is my favorite subject.
Nice.
So I can do it. But then I just happened to be talking with people. And I've always had the same. I've always been the kid. I always helped out, in school, at our church, my church growing up, the kids that were, considered special needs, autism. I always seem to have that soft side for them. I've always seemed to work well with them, and everybody just taught me, like, dude, why don't you go into special ed? They're like, you could get a job, you could blossom really, really well in that really fast. So I ended up deciding to do that. And I was like, all right, yeah. And as I got more and more education, I did it, and then I said I ended up not going to school for a few years. I started going parts, and then took a couple years off. But in that process, I got hired to be in the TA, and when I got in the TA, I just fell even more in love with it. So I decided to see it through.
Well, and that's interesting that your whole family being teachers, or like you have so many teachers that, like your dad being teacher, or
Yeah,
and so many people that being teachers. What 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 do you like beside from money? What do you think keeps teachers in the job? Or money doesn't keep them in the job, but what do you
yeah.
think is both keeping teachers in the job despite the money, and on the flip side, what do you think is causing this teacher shortage besides
Well,
the money?
yeah. So to keep them for me, at least for me, I can speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say everybody else may be a little different, but I think it's like it is. It's the connections they make. Like
Yeah.
you make that connection with kids. I don't care. You're around somebody long enough. I don't care how bad it is, how good it is. At the end of the day, you're gonna build a connection with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, one of the proudest feelings I think is when I see a kid, they don't that they're struggling with something, and they finally get it, and
Yeah.
just seeing the progression. It's nice seeing that young mind mold. Like when you're a young kid, you don't get it, you don't appreciate it, and you get as an adult, you see a kid just growing, becoming smarter. It's a great thing to see, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And that's my thing. Like, cause I always told everybody, like, seeing a kid, helping out a kid, like, it takes a cruel person that can just blatantly ignore a kid
Yeah.
and need help. Like, so I see it for that reason. And the things like other reasons that people don't want to get into teaching now, I hate to say it, it's just like the one thing with teaching is hard is how we're handling kids nowadays.
Yeah.
And that's a big like discipline. We have so much like our problem is there's no way to really discipline a kid. It's hard to attend surgery. Like one of the like honestly, I think this is one of the things made with the greatest of intentions. But I personally think is one of the worst things ever done to the school system was the No Child Left Behind program.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I've had a kid, and it is the No Child. I get the intentions were good. Some of the worst things in the world were all started with the best of intentions.
Yeah.
That's it. But like this is one because you have these teachers, and this is where I live. And my dad, I can see, and he's at the high. My dad was a high school teacher, so I started seeing it at the high school. I'm at the elementary, and I saw him at the end. But you have these kids. You're as a teacher, you're trying to teach them the importance of staying focused, working hard,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard when all this do the non-child. Like I remember my old school, I was a mentor for a kid, and he finally just looked at me. I'm doing all this talk. I'm trying to get him to go through. The worst he said this to me, and this is why I told the school there's nothing I can do. He looked right at me. He goes, "Mr. Harry, I'm going to the next grade anyway. It don't matter what I do."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have nothing to scare. I hate to say it, you got to have a little fear in them that they need to be able to do well. And we've
Yeah.
taken all that away, so people now know like kids run the show. Ain't nothing I can do.
It's a lot different. It's a lot different now than even 5 years ago. Like,
Yeah,
I go back to like B.F. Skinner and Paget and a lot of the Erickson, where they talk, when kids are starting to learn their identity, they crave structure.
yeah,
They got to have structure, and it's that old adage: you've got to be strong enough to stand up to me, so that I know that you can stand up for me. And
yeah,
they got to know where the line is. And I feel like
exactly.
what we've done is, and like it seems like it's a combination of being afraid of legal repercussions, or if it's money or whatever. It just seems to be a combination of that we've gotten the education system in a situation where there are no consequences, and the
Yeah,
kids know that. Yeah, I have a friend that is a special educator assistant, and he we observed their classroom where they put in a long-term sub, and bless her heart, but she was basically Phyllis from The Office.
yeah,
Very passive, like, oh, okay, everybody. And these fourth graders just ate her alive.
yeah,
And because they knew if they went to the office, they're coming back with a Jolly Rancher.
yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned that with the candy. Well, that's all discipline. So I've been employed. I've only been a teacher for going out almost 2 years, but I've been employed for over 10 years. Almost 10
Mhm.
years in school system. I started off as a TA,
Yeah.
and I remember I was at my old school, which I'll leave them quiet. But let's say this elementary school I worked at was a feeder school for the high school that my dad taught at.
Hmm.
So I remember when I first got started there, I remember telling my dad, yo, this discipline is terrible. I go, Dad, this kid literally punched another kid and he got a Reese's cup for it. Like, well,
Yeah,
you know, I saw that. I'm like, and then they send him back to class. Well, guess what? A couple hours later, not only those scores, but the kid was back in. I just started, it's this like cycler back and forth, punching a kid, doing whatever, just try get a piece of candy, come back. And I go,
it's
Dad, like the student violence is like at an all-time high. Like these kids are just so vicious, the teacher staff. And that was the problem with that group. A lot more, a lot more very physical. And they would get bad. Well, it's so funny, probably going fast forward about 4 or 5 years. I'm now at my different school, you know, so these kids have all aged out and they moved on. And also I get a call from my dad. He is, son, you will not believe the meeting we had today. I go, well, what's that? What's going on? Pops, he was Garrett. We just had a meeting today. Apparently, we had a meeting. Like, all right, y'all, we're trying to figure out student violence towards staff here at our high school has increased drastically the past years, and we're trying to figure out why. My dad goes, I don't know why it hit me, because I actually went, I can tell you. He called me, he goes, I instantly thought of me, our conversation a few years ago. We were talking about the student violence and stuff. I go, yeah, I go, yeah, Dad. I go, you know, you think about it. That's going about 4 or 5 years ago. Though you're dealing with the kids now, you're now dealing with kids I was dealing with 4 or 5 years ago. Yep. They're now your kids.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, and the first thing he raised his head, he goes, it's because we've allowed this at the elementary age way too long. We're waiting till they're in high school to find something. Okay, guys, hitting's wrong. We're waiting till they're physically grown adult bodies where they cause serious damage just with a punch. It's like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Do you
like,
think
they've been spending 16 years punching, you know, all their anger away? Why didn't we get them at a younger age and teach them proper coping strategies? Why did we wait so long?
Why do you think that was something I've noticed too, specifically with when a student has an IEP or even just a behavior plan? Why do you think it becomes it's almost like hands off, like a kid will punch a teacher, but if they have an IEP, even if they don't have an IEP, it's almost like they almost get rewarded, or it's like all these excuses come out. Oh, they're just it's their issues manifesting itself, or what was the antecedent? And I always think about that. It's like that doesn't work in the real world. You can't punch somebody at a supermarket or at a Waffle House and then just be and then expect everybody to be okay. Just like, that was you. My antecedent was that you ran out of syrup at the Waffle House. So I feel like we're training these kids, and any behaviorist worth their salt, you know, you're reinforcing the wrong behavior.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be talking about how to make excuses. What's that?
We're teaching them how to make excuses.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is what I tell every kid, and I tell all my students all this time. And I, you know, and I remember this is something I remember talking with the parent before, and I say this to a lot of them. I go, when I'm teaching the skills, like, y'all don't like it. First of all, I didn't ask you if you like it. That's something I never asked.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is what you need to learn to understand.
Uh-huh.
Now, not everything in this world we like, but some things you just got to do. And this is what I tell the kids. And I've had kids, you know, we had our little buddy, you know, our smart little guy. Yeah. He knew stuff. And like, he'd be with me, you know, he's been with me, and he'll make us, you know, I got this, Mr. O'Hara. I'm like, yo, hold on, whoa. I go, the fact that you're smart to tell me, one, is a problem. Two, here's why I'm trying to teach you to learn without it. Because when you leave me and you get older and you're in the adult world, you don't walk around with your IEP stapled to your forehead.
Yeah, it's not.
So you got to learn, like, and like, especially a lot of these kids, I tell them, a lot of these kids that, like, say have IEPs, if you didn't know they had an IEP, you would never know.
Yeah.
Why are we teaching them like there's something? Certain kids you can tell, all right, there's obviously something going on over there. But this kid, you're like, I'd have no idea.
I think that's the fallacy. Like I watched, there was a very popular TikTok video where this little toddler's playing in a open fountain, and this larger kid, probably 4 years old, comes over and smacks him, pushes him out of the way to play in it. And then what the story behind it is, the parents of the little toddler were upset, but when they talked to the mom of the older kid, her explanation was, oh, he's nonverbal. And that's how he explained this. But then what it turned out to be, and the whole thing was like, oh, he's nonverbal, and that's just how he is. Blah. I think the fallacy is, You need to be we need to be teaching these kids, yes, this is your special need, but you have to work even harder. We all have to work harder to overcome it. And I think the fallacy is we're making the special need the excuse and not the reason to work harder. Yet we're not going to give you a different expectation. Your expectation's the same as everybody else. If you want the protection of society, you have to conform to this. But you just have to know that for you, if you have this special need, these are things you need to do to reach that thing. Not, I have a special need, so I'm never going to reach this thing. Now, I'm all for growth, and there's a difference between like focusing on student growth versus like a standardized test. There's a difference, but there's a difference between that and like societal norms. And I feel like we're trying to toggle the societal norms to fit the special needs of kids, which I got to ask you, do you feel like there's more and more kids with special needs now than there used to be?
Yeah. It's that comes like we're it's so much like, and like because I swear, like a lot of like ADHD I found is on an all-time high. It's like, you know what I feel, it's not that kids are ADHD, is that they've never been trained to sit down and just stop. Like, you know, like and a lot of it comes like cell phones. I was coaching a baseball team, and this guy, he was a doctor, and I just came and we just studied, and we are talking about, I swear these cell phones are ruining kids. He goes, no, they are. I literally just came from a case study we did where they said they took kids, the cell phones are completely like these online games, constantly having stuff.
The dopamine. Yeah.
Yeah. It's delaying kids' impulse control. And so he goes, think about when we were a kid growing up, like when we had, I'm sure when we had kids, we went to the bank with our parents. Parents would like, go sit down and wait over there. We had to go
DMV.
Wait. We just had to sit and wait. Like, we had to learn to, control ourselves, because if not, my mama gonna whip me when I get the call for embarrassing her. Like, you're gonna get in trouble. So no, we had to learn to sit there. We look at a kid nowadays, here, take the cell phone, go sit down. So they're always entertained. They constantly got something giving them attention.
Yeah.
Well, then he even said, you look at kids nowadays, the comparison he used was when we were growing up, mom be cooking some soup stuff. There'd be a pot of boiling water. She'd always like, don't touch it. Don't get me wrong. As a young kid, we're gonna touch it.
Yeah, that's how we learn hot.
We're curious. We're curious. No, we're gonna touch it. But the thing was as a kid, what we would do is we had that impulse control. We had that. All right, hold on. Wait till mama walk out the room. She'll wait. Then we walk up, touch it. It'll hurt. Well, but here's the thing though. We had all that control to make sure I'm curious, but I'm not gonna let people. We are able to control ourselves. You tell that kid, same thing to a kid now. Hey, buddy, don't touch this pot. It's hot. You'll literally see their finger instantly
touch the pot.
And you're like, I'm sure you've seen that TikTok nowadays where people are trying to hand pots to their kids, like, don't touch the bottom, it's hot. And the kids keep reaching for the bottom. They're like, the bottom is hot. And they're like, the kids are still there. The kids are like clueless, and they're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, they're just so caught up. And so nowadays you have ADHD because the kids aren't forced to truly focus.
Yeah.
And this is rough.
I also noticed too, and I want to see if you've noticed this, and a lot of people are trying to blame this on the pandemic, but I started noticing it prior to the pandemic, like in early 2019. I started noticing kids becoming more and more helpless, like without coping skills.
Yeah.
And like it's almost like they're seeing life like these video games where it's like, oh, well, teach me. They want the cheat code to instead of learning how to tie their shoe. I mean, I understand certain kids develop differently, but if you're a fourth grader and you don't know how to tie your shoe,
it's a problem.
I think that's an issue. I mean, I think at that point,
that's simple life skills.
Yeah, that should be taken care of. Now, I can understand if you've had Velcro up until then and you haven't had to, whatever. But like, I think that point that should be something you should practice and learn.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna look down on somebody that doesn't. But it just, I noticed that was one particular skill I noticed was lacking more and more
Yeah.
as kids at each generation. And it wasn't, and that's just an example of kids not being able to, and our job as teachers is to put kids in disequilibrium. That's where learning takes place. You put them in disequilibrium, whether it's you give them a math problem or you have them try to sound a word they don't know. That's what we do. And I think what's happened is society, let alone, the higher ups in education that are removed from the classroom, they think that disequilibrium is trauma.
Yeah.
Or they're associating it with like a punishment.
Yeah, see, that's the problem too, is like, and I try to really reiterate, and I tell the kids when the students when I'm teaching them, I go, they're all, you're right though, all that. It started, it wasn't COVID. It was before COVID even came into play.
Yeah.
And you could tell, but too, but I say, let's look at these 4th and 5th grade. Let's look at the handwriting of 4th and 5th graders in today's before, like, oh my God.
Well, they're good at this.
Yeah.
You know?
And so like that was a part, like people want to play dumb. I'm like, no, let's go look at handwriting. You can tell like handwriting is the focus is not there because it's so like sloppy. But it's so different, man. It's just, I had a point I was trying to prove when I just slipped my mind, but like, yeah, you have these kids, they're so far behind. Oh, I'm sorry. So like, no, it's the dopamine. You're supposed to put in this disequilibrium. The thing what I don't like is nowadays is a kid is not allowed to fail.
Yeah.
It's like, no, guys, you need to stop doing it. We got elementary school is supposed to be a kid's very first time of learning how to deal with failure.
Yeah.
Learning how to deal with adversity. Learning, and here's the thing, I'd rather than do it when it's just passing a test, getting an A, B, or C, instead of when you're an adult, having to work a job, pay bills. I'd rather you learn to do it as a little kid where you have the time to bounce back.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what's wrong that like a kid's not allowed to fail. He's not allowed to do. You know what? I don't want to hear that nonsense. Because any of the most successful people in the world, and this isn't just anything. This is like Steve Jobs. They'll tell you, I learned way more from my failures than I ever did my success stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Success is all success. All success is telling you, okay, this is an effective strategy. Cool. When you fail, you're learning this doesn't work. This may not match with. There's so many other things you're looking at. What made this not work? You learn more from it. So learn from failures. It's okay to fail. Granted, as an adult, I get that now. As a kid, I struggled with it.
Yeah.
But I will say, when I look back on anything, it took me as I got older. I remember, I was like, I remember I did mess up that number. I never did that again. I always told people, don't do this, and said you learn more. Why? Failures are great learning opportunities. Why are we taking that away from kids?
Yeah, kids every kid gets a trophy now.
Yeah. As a baseball coach, I hate that. Oh my God. Like I literally told a parent one time that we didn't win. They're like, Coach, we'll go get trophies, man. I go, don't you dare. I go, my kids, we did not win it. We did not win it. We did not get a trophy. Great. We'll have a cookout, have a team party. I'll give them they love. We didn't earn a trophy. Trophies are for the champions, for the winners. I go, it's not that I don't like the kids. I want to teach them not everybody gets a trophy. Let me ask you, when we watch the Super Bowl, do you see all 32 teams up there getting well, thank you for playing in the No. Like, you only get the Super Bowl champs. That's it.
Exactly.
Right.
It's sending a wrong message. And I can understand, like, I think one of the things our society does is we look at one extreme and we go to the other extreme instead of finding that middle ground.
Yeah.
A great example is one of my former students. She took her mom enrolled her in jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And she's been really good. And she started out doing like really well with all the moves basics. But then when she went up levels, she started facing older and wiser opponents. And she started, having to learn a lot there. And she entered a tournament. And even her friend was in this tournament. And she lost every single match. And what was great, was funny is her mom, she wasn't like mad at them for making her lose. She didn't make any excuses. This is life. Sometimes you take the L. And what's funny is like on her Instagram, she would post like a picture of the match and then the results, and the other person's getting their hand raised and she's sitting there like this. And the next picture, Next person's getting a hand raised, and you could see her progressively just getting sad and upset. But what was great about that is the girl learned that she hates losing, and she knows, like, okay, for me to not
harder.
have this feeling anymore, I got to step up my game.
Yeah.
And then she got her first win, like not long after that. But it wasn't because somebody let her win. It was because she worked hard. She did not want to have that feeling again.
Exactly.
And she learned how to not fail.
Yeah, exactly. It gets to a point like it's you know the whole thing. Either it's the survival of the fittest when it comes to it. You either toughen up or you get walked on. Like, I mean, it's not. And then everybody goes, "That's such a cruel look." It's not cruel. It's the reality of the way the world works.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because my biggest thing is like we spend so much time coddling these kids, babying these kids. Well, then you send them to college, the workforce, where that coddling is gone.
Yeah.
So these kids have no idea how to handle life without coddling. And so then they get there. That's why mental illnesses in adults are coming, because you have so many people who were not properly trained. Like ultimately, when it comes down to everything, the old Bruce Lee saying is, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yep.
And they say, because they always ask him, why do you train? You know, he promoted nonviolence, but he was a kung fu expert.
Yeah.
Like, why do you get it? He goes, he told him that. He goes, you don't understand. He goes, that's great. I can do all this stuff. But the thing is, but do you think I actually ever want to use it? No. He goes, but life is crazy. You got to use. It's better to have the skills and be prepared to use them and never use them than to be put in a situation and figure out, what do I do?
Yeah.
You know, it's just, at least I know I can take care of myself. And it was I like that. And that's why I love that saying. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. I'm like, that's a great way to put it. And I'm like, we've forgotten that. Yes, we're teaching kids to be soft, compassionate, you know, but at the same time, we want to teach them that killer instinct to be successful.
I think we're getting away. We're confusing teaching kindness, because we want to teach kindness.
Yeah.
We want to teach, being part of community. But I think we're forgetting that we're teaching them that the world is going to change for your needs, and that's not the way the world works. If I get pulled over for speeding, I can't tell the cop, oh well, here's my accommodations. The antecedent was they got my order wrong at Taco Bell, so I'm allowed to run a red light.
Yeah, you can't do that.
There's none of that, and you can't tell the cop, oh, you're embarrassing me in front of my peers by pulling me over.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And I feel like the pendulum swung the other direction to the point where we're making our future generations too soft.
Yeah.
And, now if you're a pharmaceutical company, you love it, because just sell them Oxamoxa, Zoxaloxa, axolotl, and they'll, you're making all kinds of money. So they benefit from a soft populace. But I feel like if there was one thing I wish we could really look at, many things in the education system, I wish we could realize that disequilibrium is not necessary. It's not the same as humiliation, or it's not causing harm. In fact, if anything, it's probably the kids are learning.
It's a learning
more.
lesson.
Yeah,
it's a good learning lesson. Like that's why I guess that's how I tell people to. Like, I love I coach baseball with the middle school, and I love it.
Yep.
People ask me, they go, "Why do you love it so much?" I go, honestly, what I love about the sport, and I always promote people, it's not just because I'm a baseball guy, but when you put this kid in the sport, that's a sport based solely around failure.
Yeah.
You have a hitter, he gets up 10 times, only gets 3 hits.
Yeah.
That guy's making hundreds of millions of dollars. He's successful. The guy failed 7 out of 10 times, was considered an all-star. Let's pay him big money. Baseball, like this, it's a game that teaches you, that is baseball. It teaches you how to handle it. Okay, you failed your last time. You struck out swinging, looking stupid. Oh, that sucks. Sorry, dude. But guess what? Your next one back, that strikeout there, it didn't mean nothing. You can now you can hit the game-winning bomb or whatever.
Exactly.
It changes. How do you bounce back from failure?
What is it? What's the stat? Babe Ruth had the most strikeouts of any baseball player up to a point. Like he
Yeah,
had the
like
most
percentage-wise,
strikeouts,
yeah.
but he also had the most home
Home run.
runs.
Yeah, he was
It's
the
like,
season leader. Yeah,
yeah, it's like you don't
go big or
and
go home.
I think we're almost setting up a game where no matter whether you hit the ball or not, you still get a base.
Yeah, it is. It's getting to a point where we can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
you just look at these kids and just you talk to them, every kid, like, and that's what I look at nowadays. Like, and I can use sports is a great way for me to explain because that's my world. I can really explain it. Like, this is where I tell you how things were watered down there. When I was in high school, I graduated high school in 2007, and I remember, I'm born and raised out here in our area, in the Hampton Roads area. I remember when to go to in my high school, we went to regionals my junior and senior year. We
Nice.
did. We were in top. We lost first round, but the thing is, way I grew up, it was not. It was the top two teams from each district. That's that. And that's all you knew, and you all competed for one state champion. That's
Yeah.
it. One. Now, it is. We have like 7 different state champions for all the different classifications. Class 3, class 4, class 5, class 6. We had class 1, private school. I'm like, why are there so many different classifications? Well, we base these divisions now based solely off the student population. Okay, for sports like football, I can get that.
Yeah.
You got to have a large number for a team.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball, baseball, volleyball. What are some other sports? You can't tell me
hockey.
a small. You don't need a heavy population to field a team. And it was like, well, these more kids, they have more kids to pull from. Well, okay, that just means that's what you get with a school that lives in a very heavily populated area. That's not fair to tell them that they had to take away their advantage because this little country town doesn't have people living around them. Well, the country town was where build houses. I mean, it's not fair to make areas change that take away. You have schools that are their advantage is now being taken away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I do get 6As or all 6As. That's fine, cool.
Yeah.
But why are there so many? I'm sorry that
it's oversaturating the sport.
It is. It's like I'll sit there and I remember last year I was talking, and I swore I talked to 3 different kids that went to 3 different schools. All 3 of them were state champions. And I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, I'm lost. They was like, well, this school won this one, this school won this one. I'm just like, yo.
Well, then all those state champions enter a state champion tournament.
You would think,
to determine the state champion.
You would think, nope, they don't do that either. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. There, I'm like, it's too watered down.
I'm all for letting everybody have an opportunity for participation, but to get when you start giving everybody a trophy, I think that starts to it dilutes the thing.
It's too much.
Yeah, if everybody got it, like they did that in school where this was a few years ago, where we were supposed to give out these awards, but every student was supposed to get an award because basically they didn't want students to complain that they didn't get one. And it was like holding one kid over the other. And I'm like, well, that dilutes the award.
Yeah.
The award really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
If it's given out to everybody, why it makes that one award less special. That's why exactly. I like that they have Student of the Month, or they bring back the valedictorian and the salutatorian, because it makes it a distinction.
Yeah,
it makes it worth striving for.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that just bothered me. It's like they go, well, we don't want to hurt these other kids' feelings. Okay, so you're so worried about her, but now you're telling little Jimmy here, we're not going to acknowledge you for your hard work. Your hard work is not going to pay off.
Yeah, those are the kids.
This kid did nothing. You did everything, but y'all get here.
Yeah, the kids that suffer are the kids that are doing hard work, and then they see somebody that isn't getting the same reward or getting the there's a student that I had several years ago, and I won't say her name, but she was like my top. She was straight A's, very bright, always coming up with stuff, and I kept having to come up with new ways to challenge her. She was gifted. She was clearly on this rocket ship path, and I wouldn't be surprised if she becomes like a CEO of some great new company. Yeah. But what would frustrate her, and she would be open with me about this, is she would see these kids that are struggling, get rewarded almost more than her. And it really made me step back and look at my whole classroom management, because you have to acknowledge the kids that are doing the right. It's almost like the squeaky wheel gets the most grease. The kids that require your attention, you're almost paying more attention to. You got to make sure that you acknowledge the kids that are doing right, that are doing everything they're supposed to, or even going above and beyond. And kind of along the lines of the disequilibrium, or the making kids feel frustrated. I've found, since I've done robotics for 8 of my 10 years teaching, and I've noticed that a lot of times it's not the super high gifted kids that do the best in robotics. A lot of times it's those kids that are used to the struggle. They're used to the challenge of having to figure it out, where some of these kids, things were just very easy for them, but they were never challenged. They were never faced with something that they couldn't solve. And then they get into robotics, and robotics is not a class. It's we're mentors guiding them, but they're the ones that are supposed to come up with all the stuff. And a lot of the real gifted kids that would be on the team would struggle, like, I don't know what to do. What do I do? What do I do? Whereas the kids that are used to that problem solving, they may not be these like high level gifted here, but they were the ones that would excel, and they were the ones that were more successful, and then they were the ones that brought home the rewards.
Well, those kids, like you said, the ones that they may not have, like, they may not be gifted or anything, but what they learn is they learn how to handle anxiety. They've learned how to, like, stay calm. They've learned those coping skills. As I saw a video, it's great. It showed this older gentleman, and he was talking about, like, when time to teaching his kids.
Yeah.
I remember my kid, he goes, Daddy, the wheel broke off of my car. He goes, I took it. And he's like, oh, it's broken. He goes, I took it and I put it straight in the trash. And everybody looked, and they're like, that was mean. You didn't try to fix it. He goes, hold on. He goes, before you get mad. My son at that point, went to the car, pulled the car. He goes, no, why are you throwing away, Dad? I don't want to throw it. He goes, buddy, the wheel's broke. What do you do? He goes, my son ended up taking that wheel in the car, went and sat to himself, sat there, and finally he figured out, slide the wheel back on. He popped it back on. He goes, Daddy, look. He goes, good for you. And everybody's like, you could have done that for me. He goes, you're right, I could have.
But you did.
The point though was, that's the problem with parenting nowadays, is parents are too quick to do it for the kids instead of making the kids learn, okay, I can do this. He goes, I just taught my kid how to think for himself.
Yes, absolutely.
That's where parents don't want to do that. Parents don't want to see their kids cry. They don't want to see this, so they bail them out of everything. Then they're adults where they can't be bailed out. They got to step up. They don't know how to bail out because they've never been made to. They don't know what stepping up is like.
And that is the core of Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. And I think we forget that that's where that's going back to that disequilibrium. That zone of proximal development is where we want to put these kids. And a lot of times we're like this. And zone of proximal development, for people that don't know, I mean, if you're an educator, you probably already know Vygotsky's ZPD, but it's that zone between where they absolutely can't do something without someone doing it for them and doing it for themselves. That space in between is that zone of proximal development. And when you're putting kids in that zone, they gotta struggle. They're gonna struggle. But the whole lesson is how do you overcome the struggle? So here's now this kid, when he grows up and he gets a flat tire, instead of panicking and calling his dad or calling everybody to help him fix the flat tire, he's going to pop the trunk, pull out the spare tire, boom, on his actual car versus, like a toy or something. This is now, you're teaching this kid self-reliance. And I think that gets lost on a lot of people. And I feel like unless you want a bunch of dependent citizens that are 100% dependent on the government to do things for you, which I don't know, there might be some folks out there that want that.
There are some people, unfortunately, they're called mooches, unfortunately.
Yep.
But it is crazy that you're saying that, though. But, in colleges, I went to college, we're talking about how parents, like you said, they're not teaching how to struggle, they're not teaching the
Yeah.
skills. I found out colleges for freshman semesters. I remember when I first went to college, it was called university living. They just taught you I'm sure you remember taking it with your college.
Well, but we had our university living at VMI was a little different. It was called Cadre Week.
Okay. Are you in the VMI?
Called the Rat Line.
Right,
yeah. A lot different.
I got you. Yeah. So I had a few friends who went there. But we had university, but now, at these schools, you have colleges that their classes teaching kids how to do laundry. It's like, whoa, why are we teaching? These are skills they should already know how to do.
Well, $1 million question for you, Garrett, because this is a question that I've asked a lot of educators. What are some what are some skills that should be taught that we're not teaching? And whether it be financial or life skills that we're not teaching in high school, or maybe even earlier than that? Are there even, in fact, are there some skills that we should be starting in elementary school that should be part of the curriculum that we're not teaching? What are
I agree. Yeah, completely. We do a little bit of teach them the value of a dollar, but we really need to truly go through and teach them the value of a dollar, like how much money, stuff in high school. You say that, I'm sure the stereotypical answer you get everywhere is teaching kids how to manage a checkbook, credit cards. That's simple. Why are we letting these kids graduate high school with no knowledge, and then we let them go and get massive credit card debt as soon as they get out?
Oh, the banks love it.
We need to teach them not only that, we should really. I'll tell you, I like this. I did an observation. The guy had a lesson. He called it money math. And that was the thing. It was a social skills class and a money math class. So what he would do is he would always break down these kids. He goes, what do you want? He'd figure out the taxes. Well, how much money do you need? He would do this stuff. But I liked it. He goes, these kids don't get the concept. He goes, you need to set up a scenario. It's like, you work this job. You make this amount. Learn how to budget your checks.
Yes.
See what the housing market. Learn how to do housing markets. I said life skills, laundry, doing something as simple as laundry. I honestly never thought that was a challenge for people until I dated a girl years back. She was older than me, almost 10 years older than me, and she didn't know that you're supposed to mix your whites and your colors. You don't. She's just throwing everything. They're ruining clothes. I'm like, wow, okay.
Why did the shirt turn out pink?
Yeah, people don't know how to do this. I'm like, okay, simple life skills. Just teach them how to do this. And here's something: how to cook simple meals.
Yeah,
people don't realize if you don't learn to cook, I'm not asking you to give me a big 4-star meal or nothing. You know what I mean? But learn how to make good
something beyond
meal preps for a week that are healthy and cheap.
Yeah,
why aren't we I wish I would have learned that class.
Well, that gets into the whole thing of. You can save so much money by cooking food yourself instead of going down to McDonald's and which is so McDonald's is so grossly unhealthy for you.
Yeah, that's because you're also teaching the nutrition at the same time. The nutrition
calories.
You're getting this is much healthier than this. Yes, on TV this is great. And I get it's quick, fast, and easy, and it tastes good. Cool.
Yeah.
But it's really not doing anything good for you. You're just clogging your arteries. If you do this, they say you get to teach it. It's small, simple things. How to use tools, how to use honestly, we should all be taught simple maintenance to our vehicles.
Yeah, and we're not talking about super complicated machinery, but how the difference between a Phillips head and a flathead.
Yeah, why don't we know this stuff?
Yeah, I think that's huge, and it goes back to the different backgrounds of you might have in a 20-person class of students, you might have 10 of them that know how to use tools. Yeah. But there's 10 of them that have never picked up one before.
Yeah.
Or you may have 8 of them that know how to do laundry because their parents make them, but then there's 12 that won't if you don't teach them now. And do you think that I think that even elementary, there should be maybe a basic version. But if you start teaching how to count coins and the value of money, and again, it's coins and dollars are so foreign now to a lot of kids because it's a swipe, not even a swipe of a card now. It's on the phone. They can just
tap
their phone up
walk
and
away,
tap away. but the numbers are still the same.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
they need to understand the difference between debits and credits, and what credit cards actually do, what
Yeah.
student loans actually will do. Those things need to be taught.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're setting a lot of kids up for failure. I mean, if you really break it down, would you agree? What would you say if you could break it down to one simple philosophy? What is the purpose of a teacher?
So that's a philosophy. It's not to teach us how to be. The purpose of a teacher is to teach us the resources to survive.
Yes,
At the end of the
I
day,
agree.
yeah, it's like here's the thing: is
Well
I tell
said.
you, everybody thinks will tell me, well, teachers didn't do this. He's like, well, first off, at the end of the day, a lot of people think teachers are supposed to be saving graces and you're the heroes. No, we're not. We're not your capes. You're not superheroes with the capes. Like that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
But we are, and maybe it's probably not the appropriate. We're just a small phase of a kid's life where we teach a little bit at a time. It's for your kid, to pay attention. They really need to focus and pay attention and be cognitive and learn themselves.
Yeah.
But the fact that we put everything on the teacher. When are we going to start looking at the kid? Be like, why aren't you paying attention? The teacher's teaching. Stop looking over there. Pay attention. So the teacher's going to do this. But as a kid, we gotta put a lot more emphasis. Like me and my pops were talking about that because I was getting frustrated. Like you can have the best lesson in the world, but if you have people that don't want to pay attention and listen to it, it doesn't matter how good you teach it, they're not going to learn.
Yeah.
So we got to get to where we can't keep making the teacher seem like a superhero. Like, oh, you guys, that's the problem. That we got to understand that teachers are people that here. I hate when people think teachers are there to ruin your life. They're not here to ruin your life. Teachers go into a field to help better your life.
Yeah.
Like that's what we're here for. It's like with coaching. People are like, I hate this coach. He tried to ruin my life. No, I don't. There are some bad. I think teachers and coaches, whatever, there are bad. Everything you do, there's going to be a few bad apples.
Yeah.
But for the most part, 9 out of 10 people, when they go into that stuff, none of them are going into it with a purpose. I'm going to ruin people. No one thinks that. Like, you got to go into understand, like, this is their experience. This is what they know.
Yeah.
Maybe you take it, learn from it. Maybe you'll find a better solution yourself. You never know.
That's interesting that you make that point, because it's kind of like, a lot of us became teachers because we wanted to make a difference. We wanted to help kids, but you can only do so much. Like, you can't feed a closed mouth. Yeah. And we're already competing with lack of attention span. We're competing with TikTok, YouTube, Among Us, anime, manga. We're competing with all these other interests, and we're having to teach them things that in some cases, like, I think it's important to understand Virginia history, but how much time do we really need to spend on Wacomico or Jamestown, and how much do we really, like, I think
we don't even take them to those field trips anymore.
Yeah. It's kind of like we need to make sure that the kids understand why they're learning this. And I feel like teachers have lost a lot of respect. And I think it's because when parents complain, they want to advocate for their kid. They're scared. They want to make sure their kid isn't being taken advantage of, or their kids get an education. But what's happening is the administrators are cowering to this fear, and they're a lot gets dumped on the teacher, when really the job of administrators is to be honest, sometimes brutally honest, with parents. Like, hey, this is what your kid's doing.
Your kid just doesn't pay attention. Your kid is just rude every day. Like,
and we need to get away from he has ADHD. Well, okay, but
what skills have you taught him to help him?
Yeah, these are the things that they need to practice. And the IEPs don't, like, if it's working at school, is it also practiced at home? Like, I always wonder, like, do IEPs stop at home? Like do you suddenly, like, what do you do when they come home and they've you need to teach them something at home? And I almost feel like in some cases, and it's not all the cases, and it's probably the loud minority, versus the silent majority. It's probably just because we all remember the one that bothers us the most. But I feel like there's some parents out there that think that teachers are this fix-all, that
we're the
I'm sending
superheroes.
my kid like that. They're not part. They have no that like they're sending the kid to like they're sending their car to the shop to be repaired.
Yeah.
They're sending their kid to make up for. Oh well, I don't have to be involved in my kid's life, and I'm kind of like, well, their development doesn't stop. They don't
Yeah.
only develop at school.
That's
They're learning
no.
constantly.
Well, like you said, like what they're sending us to do things, and this has happened to me more than one occasion. This is what I'm talking about. Like, and this is what I tell you. When I got out of the job, there's something I never thought I'd be told to do. Is Mr. O'Hara, we need you to potty train these kids.
Oh yeah,
What? What?
yeah.
Like I remember this, not at our school, but this is when I first started. I was a TA at the time. Oh my god, it gives me a little headache thinking about this kid. But he wasn't a bad kid, but the kid was severely autistic.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a nice, but you could tell he was off the wall. But they told me that all right, Mr. We need you to work with him. I'm like, okay, they were giving you to him because he's hyper. You're a young man, and I was a young male at the time. Like, we need you to be able to keep up because he could be a loper. I'm like, okay. Yeah, but here are the two big things we need you to work on with him. I go, what's that, y'all? They go, well, we need you to teach him how to use the toilet and to teach him not to hit kids. And he was the youngest of like 5 or 6 siblings.
Yeah.
And I turn and I'm like, this kid's 5 years old. I got to teach him how to use the toilet.
Yeah.
And that hitting is wrong. Like, yeah, they said they're struggling. They have issues with that at their house. I go, what do you mean? Like, none of them are potty trained? So they don't know how to, like, are you telling me no kid in this house is potty trained? Like, I'm confused. They're like,
yeah.
Well, they said they don't know how to do it. I go, they said they feel it's the school's job to do that. I go, so what did the kid do? Sit in a closet for 5 years covered in poop so he wouldn't like what? Like, I'm
out in the yard.
Yeah, I go like,
they get a litter box.
Sure enough. Well, then sure enough, this kid like talking about then to bring back the IEPs. How far does it go?
Yeah.
I remember I had this strategy. It's like, okay, the kid. Luckily, I didn't have to really get it, and luckily the nurse, like I say, bless her heart at the time, she was so willing to help me out at the time. She's like, just bring him to me. I'll help you out with this because the kid was so hyper. I couldn't keep it still if I tried to work by myself. I needed help, but luckily that didn't last very long. Thank goodness. But the point though is because he never got better. He would literally, I would have this plan. He would do it somewhat when he get to me, but then here's the problem. He would go home. I gave the mom a list. I need you to do this, but every time, did you do this? Oh, Mr. I got all these other kids. I don't got time to be doing all that. I'm like, no, I got 10 other students. I don't want to hear that you don't have time with your 4 or 5 kids. When I'm doing this with 10 other students. No, you're gonna do it. And eventually got to the point. I remember I looked. I told him, I'm done. I'm not doing it no more.
Well, and this. I want this to be a in the comments. I want you to reply to this if you get folks you're listening. What age should a kid already without barring IEPs or special needs, just in general on average, what age should a kid know how to be potty trained, tie their shoes? What are like those are like being potty trained? I feel like that should be
at least by 3 years old.
Well, I think before they go to public school.
Yeah,
I can kind of understand like preschool maybe, but like public school, if you're going to go to public school, there should be a rule: no diapers in public school.
There was. It used to be that, which is why I don't know why I went away from that.
Yeah,
like what happened? I get if like say you have a kid who has cerebral palsy and the kid is just stuck. Okay, I get that. That the kid can't help that.
Yeah,
but you want them to. I don't say just lack of trying is not a reason that I should do it for you.
Well, yeah, and that goes back to I think making a lot more excuses than there are. And do you feel like some students? And again, this is not like we're not bagging on the kids that have special needs, but I think people need to understand that they're kids that aren't getting the appropriate needs. They're not getting the needs that are their supports that they need because there's a lot of gray area and a lot of confusion and a lot of blame throwing on what really is a need and versus what's just kind of like an excuse versus an accommodation.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot more is being thrown back on the teachers for that. And one of the things that like it's going back to kids not getting the support they need. I feel like there's less and less kids being that need to be in self-contained that are not and self-contained. Do you
Yeah.
feel like the self-contained situation has changed?
Yeah, I do. So self-contained. Sorry to get that cotton mouth going, but
Well, explain self-contained to people that may not understand the difference
so
between self-contained and like an inclusion student.
yeah, I was gonna say, starting off, first off, the thing with self-contained, when people hear self-contained, they just say, okay, that kid's yours all day. He's yours. No, that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Because you say it may self-contained, I may have the kid for an entire math lesson, but then he may be in his general ed class for his reading lesson.
Yeah.
Like there's something self-contained is where when it's not just he's my student all day. No, that's you gotta stop thinking that.
Mm-hmm.
I do work on for the majority, or he, she, whatever. I work on the majority. It's for over 50. If over 50% of the minutes in a school day are in that room, you're considered self-contained. Because there's kids who come to me who are not self-contained. They're just resource, which is less than 50%. But not like that, like self-contained, and as a sped teacher, is a lot of things that come with that. But everybody thinks that self-contained means, all right, he's your problem. He or she is yours. Go figure it out. No, that's not like.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, and this is what I'm noticing, the self-contained room is not used for self-contained purposes. It's used to hide behaviors. It's a behavior dumping ground. Like all these teachers, I'm tired of dealing with this kid. I don't want to deal with this kid. No. Put him here. Just put him here. It's turned into a dumping ground. Like,
wow.
It's like, and that's what I feel like. And I've talked to other teachers at other schools. They're like, do you have any kids I have that shouldn't even be in my room? But these other teachers got so sick of their behavior, they threatened to quit. So they said they brought him in my room because that's like the last place to go. And they're like, he's here. Just get. It's like, no, this isn't okay.
No.
Like, I am not a saving grace. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, and then everybody, like, I'll walk up and down the school and people will be like, and I get what they're saying. They're trying to get advice and help, but then like, I got a kid that's perfect for your room. No, you don't. Stop saying that. And I know it's a behavior.
Yeah.
They stop saying that. They stop. What's their diagnosis? Oh no, but their behavior. I didn't ask about their behavior. I asked about their diagnosis. Like, I'm sorry, but sometimes bad kids are just bad kids. Yeah, that doesn't make them self-contained,
and it doesn't mean, and saying a kid is a bad kid doesn't mean we're giving up on them.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's like, we're not labeling them. We're not saying you're a bad kid, because there are some teachers that are burnout and they'll say you're a bad kid, but that's like 10% of any profession is going to have bad. Yeah, going to have some rotten eggs in it. But I think there's some people that like you could, and they could have been good teachers and then just hit that wall or hit that point where they were just so burnt out that they started resenting the kids in front of them. And I think a lot of times the kids catch some of the frustrations that we have. But I don't think it's wrong to say that there's some kids that just now
some kids are just unteachable.
Yeah,
some are. That's and it's not to be mean, but that's the reality of the world. Well,
I'm never gonna play in the NBA. Like, I'm not going to be ever as good as Michael Jordan. I'm not even going to be able as good as the worst player in the NBA right now is better than me. Yeah. Like, I'll never play for them. But I'm not going to sit there and be upset that I'm never going to play in the NBA, because that's just not my gig.
Yeah.
That's just not my thing. And I think sometimes, like, we're not ever going to give up on the kids when they're in front of us. But there's got to be this understanding that some kids are more limited in what they can and can't do than others. We're going to give them as much support as possible. But this kind of goes with that personal growth thing too. I've had students that were at a BR, beginning reading level, and just getting them into like a 300 Lexile was true. Like, that was like a miracle. And that's something to be celebrated. But to expect this kid to be at like a 700 by the end of the year, you're killing this, to tell him that, like, you're killing this kid's motivation. But there are going to be, so it's the same thing with behaviors. There's some kids, whether it's the environment that their home life, what they've gone through, and there's some horror stories. But I feel like we can't let the home life, like, the reasons why they're the way they are cannot be the excuse to allow bad behavior. You know what I mean? Like, it can't be like, we can't, like, identifying a student as a bad kid. I mean, maybe a better way to say it is they're a behavior issue.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way, but like, it's not, I think that sometimes, and I've seen the other side, I've seen teachers go, oh, that kid's a bad kid. Good luck.
Yeah.
You'll never get through to him. And I think that's a fallacy too. That's the other side that we've got to fight against, is we do get those, like, one of a colleague of ours that worked miracles with this one student that most of the other school had written off as, this kid's a bad kid, and she worked miracles with this guy. And and that's the thing. But I think there's a difference between identifying a student that is severe bad behavior issues versus like calling them the bad kid. But I know exactly what you're saying. We have to be realistic. And it's a shame.
Also too,
what's that?
Is this the also too, like we say with the bad kid, is before you jump that far, I tell you, is this the best setting for him?
Yes.
At the end of the day, like, you could have him in a setting that this is not beneficial at all.
Yeah.
Just give them something better where they truly would benefit.
Exactly.
That's the point. Is like, why aren't we paying attention to that? We pretend that we got it. There's a lot of factors that really come into play.
I think that's the shame of it, is there's a lot of truth in the garbage that Up on High tries to tell us. There's a nugget of truth in it, but I think that I don't think that the people making the big decisions are being honest about what's really going on. And I think they're misconstrued. Like, they're looking at the worst of things, and they're not looking at solutions that are truly going to benefit the students and the teachers. And if the teachers are burnt out, it's going to affect the students. But so ultimately, this is all about the students. And I feel like we're overlooking things that work with students, and we're quick to like almost go to old school norms, like you're saying, like, well, we're going to send this kid to your room because they're a behavior issue. Well, wait a minute. Let's look at this. Like, what are you sure that's the right placement for him? And not just for him, but like, how's that going to affect the ecosystem of your room? Because you might have 6 other kids. Now that you're adding another kid to this room, how's that going to affect their learning?
Exactly. And, like, that's a big, I'd say, as a special ed teacher too. Yeah. That's huge in my room. And I always tell kids, like, not kids. Oh yeah, I tell them, but then we can't really go do it. But like, when I talk, like, with administrators, when we're trying to, like, all our specials, when I'm trying to make plans, that stuff I tell everybody, I'm like, you don't understand, like, y'all, like, we really gotta be careful with the combination of kid you put together too. Yeah. Because, I have kids, like, I have little Johnny, I'll say, over here. I got little Johnny who, he makes noises. I mean, like you said, they just be like, flaps, whatever. But then little Timmy and little Sally over there, that triggers them. Yeah. Hearing people do the flap, and it's like, oh my God. It's like, no matter what I do, they're gonna get upset no matter what I do. He can't help, this little Johnny can't help the flaps. It was overstimulation. Yeah. Little Timmy and little Sally can't help that those stimulations then cause them to be stimulated. So it's like, guys, I'm trying as hard as I can, but there's certain things y'all gotta be. Come on. Yeah,
there's like, certain things that just can't be done.
It's like when it just happens, like, that takes me. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of subs this year, and I'll tell them, like, but Mr. O'Hara, I'm like, y'all, stop. Here's the thing you gotta learn, like, with stuff like Marco, this happens. Stop sitting there panicking. Like, what we just gotta learn to do is you put your hands up. Let them finish out. Let them fizzle out for a little bit. Because those are things that we just can't control. I can't control him being overstimulated. We can't control that. Then trigger. That's part of their problem. Is like, that stuff like that triggers them. It's not that they judge me. If they can control what triggers them, they would probably turn the switch off, because that trigger is not something they enjoy. Yeah. But you can't have it. At that point, that's not for you to freak out. It's not for us to get mad. It's not for us. That's for us to stop from it. Like, all right, let's focus on getting back to an even kill 0, and then we'll start again. And that's a hard thing. And that's where, when people become teachers, they don't teach you stuff like that. And it's like, I remember my first few times, I was, oh no, like, what do I do? And then luckily, as a I gotta say, me being a TA was probably one of the best things for my career.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, me going to school later, because if I had gone in young and became a teacher like I was supposed to, like 21, 22, say I'd gone to college straight up,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be a teacher right now. So because I wasn't mature enough to understand that stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
had
I
to
was
kind
a
of go
young
through.
kid. I didn't know no better. Now that I'm older, I got more times. I've become more patient years. It really took me. Now I'm in my 30s. Now I'm like, okay, I'm a little more patient. I'm more patient than I was then, and I'm struggling now. I can't imagine how I would then be handling it. But
Well,
it's like, you know,
a couple questions I have because it's two different questions that could take us on two different tangents. But the first one is like, we're in a profession that has traditionally been dominantly female.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of, like, in fact, there was a time where it was almost like it was like 90% female.
Yeah.
More and more male teachers are coming in. But one of the things I've noticed, and again, it's way different in other jobs, but I always felt a little bit irked when I would talk about it, connecting with a student, and the reply is, "Well, you're a male teacher, so they respond to you better." And I'm like, well, no, like, oh, is it that, or is it because I'm good at what I do?
Partially true, partially, because you know, because that's why I was totally going to elementary. I'm like, okay, and because especially in elementary, especially like with the boys, I'll say always the boys don't want to keep always going to a woman, telling a woman, and you know, sometimes they need that adult male to understand. Okay, I was a boy. I get where you know, we got it helps to relate. But I do get though, like when it comes to discipline, like when it comes to like, oh, they only respond to you better because you're a male, stuff like that. I get mad at that. I'm like, that's not because I'm a male. That is not. It's just that's better discipline.
Well, I've known male
I am better
teachers that
discipline.
the kids had that where the kids didn't respond, you know, as well as they would have. But like, I don't know. Like, to me, that statement,
it's very. It's not. I get what you're saying. Like that's a tough way to. That's tough to explain. Like I see that it's partially true a little bit. I'll give a little partial truth. I don't think there's a very misleading statement, I guess you could say.
But I think it's an oversimplified statement. Like, for example, there was a teacher that had a student, and then they moved him to my classroom. She had the student for first half of the year, and they moved him to my room. And the reason was, in his culture, women are inferior. Like his his mom would have to walk 2 feet behind the father, and like whenever the teacher would address his behavior, he would literally, I mean, this kid was like 3 feet tall, but he would stick his nose up in the air like he's above her and not listen to her. But then when he got to my class, he was like, he was
thing,
whatever Mr. Burden says, I'm going to listen to. And I remember in the parent teacher conference how, well, the mom had to sit like 2 feet behind. She was like in a chair. It was really weird. It's different cultures.
Yeah.
But it was
one of those things at this, how they were raised,
where I said the exact same things as my colleague, and they listened to everything I said, but with her, they dismissed it. And it's just, it was surreal. So there is some, I can see where there's some, but I almost feel like that there's also a personality thing too, you know? And I feel like sometimes to write off that a male teacher's better at classroom management, I almost feel like that's writing off. I don't know. It's tricky.
It is like, I've met some males who have terrible classroom management. Then, you know what I'm saying? That's what I say. That's not a male or a female thing.
Yeah.
You know, a person, that's just, are they a good disciplinarian or not? Period.
Women that were tremendous at it. Yeah.
Like, I don't know why, like, I get, you know, there's topics for gender roles, but classroom management, classroom discipline is not one of them.
Mm-mm.
You know, it's like, oh, because you're a woman, that means you have better nurture, so you're going to be nicer. Or because you're a man, that means, oh, your classroom is going to be more strict. No, not at all.
No.
Some of the strictest teachers I've had were run by females. Some of those laid back were run by males. Yeah. I've had both the best. You know, it's like I don't. That's not where you bring gender roles. Like no.
I'll introduce you to a couple of nuns if you think a female teacher
Yeah.
can't be a good disciplinarian. A sister, Sister Mary
The sisters,
Stigmata.
yeah, man, don't mess with them. Like my grandfather went to a Catholic school. He told me, he goes, you know what, son? He fought World War II. He always
Yep.
told me, I'll tell you, he goes, I'll go back to having my colonel in my face. He was
Yeah.
over dealing with Sister Mary.
It's
Man,
like, Private, why aren't you scared of me? Well, my sister
he goes,
Mary
man, you
Stigmata.
didn't raise for nuns, man. He did tell me one time. He goes, I did once. I looked at my colonel, and he was yelling at me. He goes, you handle too well. He goes, you didn't go to Catholic school, did you? The nuns, man. These guys like, okay, yeah, good boy. I got to step
I
up.
get it. All right.
Yeah, they laugh. Like, yeah, man. Like, but no, that's what I say. Like, there's too many times. Like, I said, certain things is if something's not working. What I don't like is you look at it. It's okay to look at somebody like, look, man, this strategy just doesn't work.
Yeah,
we got to figure something. Like, but too many people, no, it's because of this. It's because of that. It's because. Look, man, it's called a trial and error thing. We tried it. It didn't work. Let's find something else. Trial and error. It's trial by fire. It happens. And like,
where do you see this going? Where do you see education and special education going if something big doesn't change?
Man, that's for one. I'm sorry, I got
no. I get it, dude. My allergies killing me.
Yeah, it doesn't help my beard too. My allergies.
Yeah, this is a fake green screen behind me. I'm really in the middle. There's pollen everywhere right now.
Oh yeah. But I'll say, first off, you're not going to get they were not going to have the best teachers coming in anymore. And that's where the worst part is you have these people who are great, but they realize my skills are really not being appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
They're not being valued. So I'm going to go to where I'm going to get paid, take care of myself better. Not like that, just where the workplace environment is just going to be happier.
Yeah.
Because not only that, and it's funny, and I know I bring up pay a lot with kids, but the teachers, but I tell you, that's a huge thing because especially a lot of your teachers need that pay for them to get resources to help teach.
Yeah.
And we're not like, because it's cool, we'll buy it for you. Yeah, but the problem is a lot of times when I put in that order, it doesn't come to like 2 months after the lesson is already done.
Not when you have certain people in charge of the money at your school that cry about how much bulletin board paper that you use.
Yeah, it is. I get it's like, come on now, y'all. Like, whatever. But I see
the Stockholm
if it
Gestapo.
doesn't change, I see this. One, here's the thing. If it doesn't change, we're gonna hit a massive teacher drop.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna get to a point where I feel like schools are gonna automatically go back to being homeschool, the virtual homeschooling automatically.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have no choice, no teachers, not enough people. But also that, like, if they're doing stuff, if not, what the teachers who are there, it's gonna get to a point that the nation's we're gonna have to look and find, okay. And this is honestly kind of why I'm just trying to stick with teaching. Is when things go on, I kind of see, I feel like they're gonna realize we gotta start stepping up, paying better.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping maybe, God, I can only pray, whatever, but you're either gonna lose a lot of teachers, and then you're gonna realize, crap, now we got to set up all this homeschooling, all this virtual, which then you're gonna have parents complaining because then they're gonna have to stay home from work. You're ultimately gonna create a really bad domino effect.
Yeah.
I will see, I do, especially the drop, I can eventually see us going to 4-day school weeks just because
I think we should
it's getting
do that
too
already.
much.
Yeah.
I heard Ohio started doing it. I could be wrong with that one.
I think a 4-day school, like, I wouldn't mind. I felt like when we did the virtual schooling,
it was the best
when we had that Monday was a teacher work day. And because that you had your whole weekend, and then your Monday you could spend getting your lesson plans, getting everything, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, having all the meetings, so that the rest of the week was a regular school week. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I liked when we were doing it too, especially me being special ed. Like, special ed, I think that year I had kindergarten through 5th grade. I had every single grade level in my room. And what I liked is that Monday, I was able to take the time and put my work and my lessons together for each kid, each grade level. So throughout the week, I had a Monday for a kid, Tuesday, I literally just pulled them, here you go. Like, I was able just to stay so much more organized.
Yeah.
Especially for a guy like me, like, I did my student teaching during COVID. Like, I didn't get to be in the class. Like, I didn't get that legit student teaching. Like, so when I came in, like, I already can't. Teaching's already a lot when you're coming in. Then the fact is, I really didn't get the student teaching at all either. I did my student teaching sitting on my couch during COVID. I never left my couch.
You had to hit the ground running when you got in.
Yeah. So like that day was really, and that's what I tell you, like it's already a lot. And here's the thing, I just say it's those lessons. Even though I'll talk to other teachers, they're like, in all honesty, they go, my lessons were so much better in that 4-day work week. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to worry about running around all day. Do I have enough copies? Do I have this? Because Monday I was able to dedicate my day to making sure that was all good to go.
Yeah.
So you eliminate so many stresses during your day. No, I'm like, that is very true. Like that would, like you said, if we need to have meetings, we need to have an IEP meeting. Let's do it on Monday. You know, like that way I don't have to waste time and avoid lessons during the rest of the week. Monday. Absolutely. And it'd be really helpful. Like, but I can see education, it's going to get to where I feel like it's going to be mainly virtual.
I think so. Well, I mean,
sad, but
you've got so many factors. You've got the behavior management factor. You've got, how so many kids now are struggling with, and there may be something to looking at expecting kids to be still for 7 hours a day. I mean, even kids like when we were kids, like to me, that's push. That's asking a lot.
Yeah, like it is. Like that. Yeah, these kids is like, I'm an adult and I struggle to stay still that long.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like you're asking me to have these 5-year-olds do it? And like after a while, even as an adult, I'm yawning and I'm like, oh my God, I'm struggling here.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like it might be the future.
Yeah.
Well, brother, we're pushing an hour and 40 minutes, man. But I think we could do another 3 hours, man. But we'll have to have you
talkers, we can do it.
We have to have you come back, man. But I really appreciate you hopping on with us.
Of course, man. Anytime.
I appreciate everybody listening. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. Please comment. What do you think? What age do you think kids should be able to poop themselves in the toilet rather than use a diaper? Or what age should kids learn how to tie their shoes? What are your thoughts on the future of education? Drop a comment below. And Garrett, where can people reach you? If do you have Instagram? Do you have Twitter? Anything like that?
I do have a Facebook. If you want to look me up on Facebook, reach out to me. You can do that. But I don't do too much. I don't do too much Twitter and all that stuff. Just Facebook for me.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, any final words of wisdom or encouragement for all the educators out there?
Man, we gonna get through it. That's all it is. Summer vacation ain't too much farther away, Hey, Rome wasn't built in a day. We'll all get better. The storm will always eventually pass us. So
awesome.
Every year is a different year.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Garrett. Everybody, please again, like, share, subscribe, comment. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And summer vacation's coming up. And congratulations, Garrett, for doing this marathon. You get a Jeans Pass Jack jeans for the rest of the day today.
Ain't no wrong with that. I love it.
All right, brother. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll talk to you. Have a great week, everybody.
You as well.
Catch full episodes of the Educators Podcast every Thursday at 4 p.m. Real educators with the real issues in education. Thank you so much for watching. And, of course, take care of yourself. Jeans passes to anyone who likes, shares, and comments on this video. Have a great week.